What you're seeing right here is in a master loss sector, and watch how fast this champion gets deleted. There's a couple things going on here that I'll get into later in the video, but the point of this video is to cover the best hand cannons to use with Lucky Pants. This will be with updated information for Lightfall. Some other things to look forward to in this video is an interesting interaction when you stun an unstoppable champion with Strand. Also, there's a cool synergy between an armor mod and this perk that was on this revolver in the first clip. Lucky Pants is an exotic for Hunter that deserves to be mentioned alongside things like Assassin's Cowl, Gear Falcons, and even Star Eater Scales. Basically turns your hand cannon into a heavy weapon for 5 seconds with a 10-second cooldown. And hand cannons were just buffed by 20%, but only to red and orange bars. So not champions, but it's still nice for this exotic. Another reason I want to talk about Lucky Pants is how it synergizes with Strand. Since Strand doesn't have a lot of high damage output, that's where Lucky Pants comes in. You can literally delete champions without using heavy ammo. The first thing to know is that you want a hand cannon that has a high rate of fire. Since the damage window is so short, you want to be able to get up to the ×10 as fast as possible to have as many bullets as possible doing maximum damage. At ×10, it's 600% damage increase. So the Strand hand cannon you see in this footage isn't really the best choice. Even though those tracer rounds do add to those stacks faster, it's just not really good at DPS. So the first one to mention is Last Word. The way you'll use this is you'll empty the revolver and then you'll use your dodge to reload. This thing fires so fast, you're able to get off all those shots before the damage buff ends. One of the downsides to this weapon is the fact that it doesn't have that good of range. You always have to be pretty close to take full advantage of its damage, and that might not be your playstyle. So you might want to opt for Crimson. This is perfect with the high rate of fire. It pretty much feels like you're using a pulse rifle as it's a burst hand cannon. This ramps up to the ×10 damage boost very quickly, allowing you to get a lot of shots off with that 600% damage bonus. And this thing has incredible range. You kill an enemy with a crit, it will reload it, and every kill heals you. This thing is incredible. Malfeasance is just as good. You don't get healed, but it does have intrinsic unstoppable. So you can stun unstoppable champions with the explosions from the weapon. It does 25% bonus damage to Taken and 25% bonus damage if they have Wither Horde applied. Now maybe you don't want to use an exotic weapon. The best legendary hand cannon to use is a Seraph Revolver. I believe this is just a world drop now. You can find it anywhere by chance, but you can farm for it in the Spire of the Watcher dungeon. I recommend Reconstruction and Vorpal. Vorpal gives primary weapons 20% extra damage. Reconstruction will reload it over time, making it perfect for Lucky Pants, as when you swap to the hand cannon, the gun needs to be fully reloaded to work with Lucky Pants. This is the weapon that I was using in the first clip. There's a couple of things I want to mention. The first clip, I was using Leviathan's Breath with this. One thing I learned, that Leviathan's Breath by itself is incredibly strong, if you don't already know. 2 shots in a master loss sector deletes an unstoppable champion. Now Leviathan's Breath with 7 Seraph Revolver puts out enough damage to even kill an unstoppable in a Grandmaster. That's what you see right here. Of course, you need to be pretty close to get the full damage with Seraph Revolver. That's one benefit of using a legendary hand cannon, but it frees open that exotic slot to use things like Leviathan's Breath, Galahorn, whatever your favorite exotic is. One thing that's really cool about the Seraph Revolver with Reconstruction is that it synergizes with a kinetic holster. I thoroughly tested this. This is basically what you need to know. Pretty much just use one kinetic holster, as I tested it with 2 and 3. For one, you're missing out on other mods you could be using. Also, when you had 2 kinetic holsters, it didn't help us at all with Lucky Pants, as when Lucky Pants were ready, the Seraph Revolver had the same amount of rounds either way. I had a few more with 3 kinetic holsters. Again, you're giving up too many other mods for that. So it's optimal to use one. Then you could use things like kinetic surge mods or other mods that you prefer. What's cool about this is that you can pull out your hand cannon to get the buff from Lucky Pants to delete a champion and stow it without having to waste time reloading to use another weapon. And when Lucky Pants is ready, as you draw the hand cannon, it's going to be fully loaded. And with the kinetic holster and Reconstruction, the hand cannon should be back to 28 shots. So in my opinion, there's not one weapon that's the best weapon to use with Lucky Pants. Use different ones for different situations. For exotic hand cannons, I definitely recommend either Crimson or Malfeasance, as they both have high range. Use Crimson for the healing, then use Malfeasance if you have someone on your fire team that has Wither Horde or you're fighting Taken. Then opt for the Seraph Revolver if you prefer not to use that exotic slot on a hand cannon. However, I will say I prefer using Crimson or Malfeasance, as exotic primaries do substantially more than legendaries. And this might sound like a skill issue. It seems I don't need to aim as precise with Malfeasance or Crimson, and their range just feels better. I mentioned at the beginning of the video that Lucky Pants is perfect with Strand. There's one thing I noticed in my testing that's really important to know. When you stun a champion with a shackle grenade, even though they can't move, it seems like they're not stunned as long, therefore you do less damage to them. When I would stun this unstoppable with a weapon and then switch to my hand cannon with Lucky Pants, it seemed to do a lot more damage, and I was able to more consistently delete the unstoppable when I would stun them this way. Now barrier champions, it doesn't really matter. When you suspend them, they're very easy to destroy with Lucky Pants. strings. Now if you want a full suspending strand build to use with either Crimson or Malfeasance, watch this video right here. The video does focus more on Malfeasance, but feel free to swap Crimson in there, no problem.